And we are live. So, welcome to episode 106 of An American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. In the house tonight, we've got Eric from Hey Internet. Eric here. Thanks for stopping in once again. Always a pleasure to have you on.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, man. And then we've got coming back for to finish up the trilogy. He was there with us in A New Hope, and he's back here for Return of the Jedi. We got the Goraphobe, who is celebrating his completion of 365 days on YouTube.
Hey,
so congratulations for that, man. I'm sorry I couldn't make it to the stream last night, but I was a little burnt out after mine. It had kind of been a long day. But
cool.
That's very cool, man. Congratulations.
happy. Yeah, congrats. Didn't know that, man.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. It's good news. I remember when I first, started doing this thing here, I saw that the average content creator or the average podcast, I think, the average was 174 days.
Damn, really?
Yeah, that's the average. At which point most people quit, either for whatever reason. I talked to one person, and I'm not going to mention their name, of course, but they said that they had at one time set up 3 different channels, and they quit each time, just from lacking confidence. I guess they couldn't get past, going out there every day and talking about whatever, and completely knowledgeable person, completely knowledgeable person, completely cool person. And tried 3 different times. And, I guess that quit bug gets in your head. And, next thing you know, you're like, I'm not going to, or I won't this week, and then,
it's easy to get discouraged. It's really easy to get discouraged. It really is.
Yeah, it can be. I just think as long as you're talking about the stuff that, matters to you, then that helps. I remember Henry Rollins. I'm a huge Henry Rollins fan, and I remember his book Get in the Van. Right. And when he was touring with Black Flag, and it's basically about him just being a skinny fucking kid, getting selected out of fucking nowhere to go sing for Black Flag. Like he was working in like an ice cream store. Yep. In Washington, D.C., scooping in sweeping out, mouse crap, every day, and the Baskin Robbins or whatever, 31 flavors. And all of a sudden he just got this call. Hey, you want to come sing for us? He's like, what? So next thing you know, he's in this shitty van, just going around with them. And he said they went to a bar one time. This was part of the book. He went to a bar one time, and he was complaining because like nobody was there. Because this wasn't stadium rock, and these guys were like putting it out there like every fucking night, like their heart and soul into it, and screaming. I remember Ian MacKay one time said that he had seen them in the rehearsals, and even in the rehearsals, like Henry was like screaming his lungs out, even like for the fucking before the show even started and anybody was even in the bar, and that's the level that they were going at. And one time he said,
did you freeze, Mike?
Yeah, I think you did.
Hello, are you there?
There we go.
Okay.
You're pausing for
I don't know what happened. Can you hear me?
Now I can,
Yep.
yeah.
Can you hear me now?
I can a little bit, yeah. There you go.
Can you hear me any better now?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yep.
So he said Greg Ginn took them aside because he complained about only five people being at the show. And he's like, hey man, we play our fucking hearts out. It's not about, any of that. You go out there. If it's one fucking person, it's the same as a 50,000,
yep.
And it doesn't fucking matter. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, as long as I'm getting to say what I need to say or, what I think about a particular movie, then that's what matters to me. I think, each of us in our own way, if that's what we're doing, then we're building up a pretty good fucking back catalog.
Oh, yeah. I've said it to both you guys offline. I've said to other guys, you said, keep this fun for yourself. Keep it a fun hobby. Don't obsess about the numbers.
Yeah.
Enjoy what you do, or else it'll become a chore.
Yeah,
that's the key, and that's the easiest thing to let happen to you is for it to be like that, because you know what I mean. Our natural instincts is to be offended or feelings to get hurt when somebody's not watching our content. You know what I mean? It's only human nature. You just got to remember that if you are doing what you truly love and you stay consistent with it, bottom line is, if you truly love it, other people out there are going to love it too. Somebody.
Yeah, somebody is. And
somebody will find you.
I think it was Rob Zombie who said being cool comes with a pay cut. So that's you know, that's just the way it is, you know.
But,
all right, so we are here and we are talking tonight. We're getting ready to wrap up the trilogy, a little Return to the Jedi. Are you gentlemen ready to roll?
Born ready, baby.
Boogie woogie. So, we're here in the third movie, and I just got a chance to watch it this morning. And I like we were talking about before we got on the air, I am going to bag on it a little bit. By the time because we had covered Empire last week, but we were saying that, you know, I mean, nobody could have expected Empire after what we got from Star Wars.
Right.
You know, I mean, you know, this fun, sort of whimsical, you know, lighthearted, you know, with some action, and, you know, it's hitting, you know, every fucking switch, you know, but it's still, you know, primarily almost, you know, a drive-in, you know, sci-fi movie, you know, it's doing all these different things. And then they hit us with Empire.
Yeah, you slapped in the face.
Yeah, and the Alliance is just getting kicked in the balls, and then they get up again, and then they get kicked in the balls again, and then they get kicked in the balls again, and then, you know, people are getting their hands chopped off, and, you know, people are getting tortured with electricity and fucking frozen in carbonite, and Luke finds out that Vader is his father, and you get this inkling of who the fucking Emperor is, and he looks scary as hell, you know, and it's just, you know, Lando's trying to help, but he has to betray him, you know, to save his own ass, to get in position later to try to help them. You know, he's like, I got to stay alive long enough to try to, you know, pull some double cross down the road later. You know, if I make a big stint now, you know, I'm going to die. And it's just, it's a fucking amazing fucking flick. And then, you know, once again, hey, guess what? You know, we're not going to have content every 6 weeks. We got to wait 3 years for the next fucking movie. And they hit us with it. And it's a good fucking flick. I mean, don't misunderstand me. It's a good fucking flick. It doesn't exactly congeal with where things were at and where they left off.
But it's going to be hard as hell to follow up The Empire Strikes Back, in my opinion, no matter what.
It is, and it. Gorphobe, do you want to say something? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I would just agree, and considering it's the best Star Wars movie ever made.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is and it isn't. Things had changed. And I think Bill had said when we got into the first movie that by the time we got to the third, you know, Lucas is clearly thinking about lunchboxes. Yeah. You know, he's thinking about T-shirts. He's thinking about merchandising. He's thinking about toys. He's not necessarily, he's turning over some, he's turning over directorship. I mean, he didn't direct the second movie and he didn't direct this one. Right. A lot of things had changed between 77 and 83. He was no longer in that desperate position that he was. And he had put forth everything again to, you know, all of his, you know, money and production to make the second movie, you know, and everything's riding on it. And so he hits it out of the park again. But then, you know, he turns over the directorship in the second movie so that he can focus on Raiders of the Lost Ark, which just becomes You know,
Phenomenon.
another fucking global phenomenon, and everybody's like, "Who the hell is this guy?" Like everything he does, you know, just turned. And I love Raiders of the Lost Ark. You know, today was John Rhys Davies' 78th birthday. So happy birthday to Salah.
Yes.
But I mean, that clearly establishes him and offers some difficulties down the road for when it comes to this movie. Empire comes out in 80. Raiders comes out in 81. This movie in 83. He's now looking for directors to come on board. Among those considered was Spielberg. Spielberg was considered for Jedi, but they were feuding. I guess they were being drama queens.
Oh, really?
And they were feuding in the Directors Guild. But I mean, think about what Jedi would have been, maybe with Spielberg at the helm. That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
David Lynch
Jesus.
was up for consideration. And I think Lynch's response was, he says his interest level was next door to zero. Because that's just not the type of movie that, you know, David Lynch would helm. Cronenberg was up for, I would love to see a Cronenberg Star Wars movie, but he turned it down also. So that, I mean, you got to think that, you know, these guys are serious fucking directors to turn down an opportunity to direct a Star Wars movie back then. You know, the biggest movie in the world. And Lynch just says, fuck off. You know, I have no interest, I guess, in blockbusters. You know, I want to make art. And then Cronenberg says, you know, that sounds okay. But you know what? You know what he picked over this was Videodrome and The Dead Zone. So,
I'm just imagining Cronenberg behind all like the creatures that would be involved in Jedi.
Oh, man. I mean, you know, because like I said, you know, at this point we're in lunchbox land. You know, we're in lunchbox land. But I mean, I don't think you would have gotten any of that with Cronenberg. You probably would have gotten it with Spielberg.
Oh, big time.
Scott would have been a good pick for Return of the Jedi.
Who? Oh, Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That would have been interesting. That would have been interesting. I think that probably Lucas would have turned that down because usually, and I'll get back to this later. Usually, you know, there's not a lot of toys that come out of Ridley Scott movies.
True.
Why didn't Kirshner do it like he did Empire?
I don't know the exact answer to that. I do know that during Empire, he felt it was a tremendous burden. Yeah. He felt extremely strained and, you know, put upon to, you know, to take this. I imagine that must have been like the biggest movie in the world to make at the time, Empire.
Big shoes to fill.
Yeah, those are enormous shoes to fill. You know, but
did great.
Yeah, no, he made the best movie ever. You know, and maybe he just didn't want to risk fate. You know,
that's true.
You know, getting struck by lightning. You know, that kind of thing. You know, I'm not stepping up there again. I hit it out of the park. You know, leave me alone. I can take my ball and go home, which is actually kind of a healthy sign. You know, that's actually a very healthy sign. You know, take my ball. I did it, and now just, you know, leave me alone. They get somebody, and this director's name was Richard Marquand. Yeah, that was the director for Jedi. I don't know the name.
I haven't heard of him since.
Yeah, Richard Marquand. There were some issues with Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford was only contracted, unlike Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher. He was only contracted for 2 movies. So he wasn't contracted for this. That was why Han Solo goes into carbonite at the end of the second movie. There was no guarantee they were going to be able to bring him back. And then when they come back in 82 or 83 to ask him, he's already a worldwide star from those 2 movies and from Raiders.
Right. Had Blade Runner come out yet?
Yes.
By 83?
I don't believe so. I don't think it was 83.
I think it came out in 82.
Was it before this?
I could swear that Blade Runner was around 82 or so. I may be wrong, but it was at least right around the same time.
Hold on a second. Let me take a quick look. So, I mean, there's the issue with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 1982.
Wow, yeah.
1982.
Definite
So,
star.
yeah, and he doesn't necessarily need to come back for this.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of rewrites in the script. Han Solo was supposed to die in the third movie.
Yep.
Early at the end of the first act, to throw a lot of shade on the Alliance to say, "Oh shit, this might not actually work." You know, they kind of went with like an Infinity War kind of vibe. You know, where you watch the Hulk get the shit kicked out of him like in the first 5 minutes, and you're like, "Oh shit!" I'll never forget that as long as I live. And I'm like, "Oh shit, they're all gonna die."
Yep.
Like I knew the minute that happened, I'm like, "These guys are fucked." Like he just got the living hell beaten out of him, and I think that would have been a hell of a flex if they had killed Han Solo. But he said that Lucas was focused on merchandising and toys. And he said it took him a long time to get up, to just come out and say it. But they said somewhere around 2010, he said Lucas didn't see any future in dead Han Solo toys.
Oh God.
So this is the mindset that he was in. Skywalker was supposed to have walked off at the end of the third movie, kind of like in a spaghetti western.
Right.
He was supposed to have walked off like alone, exhausted.
Yeah.
He's had what 2 days of training from Obi-Wan.
Right.
And this by the end of the second movie, he's had maybe a week's worth of training with Yoda. He's had to find out who his father is. He's had his hand cut off. Everybody,
by his father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we talked about that. How even the Jedi like lie and obfuscate to him.
Yeah.
They're all these lies of omission because they're just so fucking cold with no attachments that all they see is the big picture. So the original plan was at the end of the third movie, he was supposed to be able to do everything that he did, but then he just kind of walks off. Like he just wants to get away from everybody, which again would have been a really cool flex, but you can't make a lunchbox out of that.
Right.
So, there you go. So, I mean, you think about the possibilities. I'm just listing these, not necessarily to bag it, but just to look at the parallel universes where you could have seen something like that.
Well, that's been an ongoing thing with Return of the Jedi all the time because everyone brings up the Ewoks. That was pure merchandising. But I'll say this. Most of my friends who are females, they love Return of the Jedi, and that's the one they always go back to because, not to sound sexy, really, because girls love fucking teddy bears. You know what I mean? They go and they enjoy the Ewoks. The kids, they love the Ewoks. And by the time this movie came out, they wanted to market a lot more towards children. So, 50-50. I definitely do see his point looking that way to get more people into the theaters.
Yeah, the Ewok planet was supposed to be Wookiees.
Right.
That was supposed to be all Wookiees. It would have been a Wookiee battle. That would have been, really cool. But, this is the planet we live on. So
everything about Return of the Jedi was aimed toward kids, man. It was complete kids service. From the beginning of the movie to the end.
That's what I noticed. I mean, it's uneven. It's sort of an uneven movie because the Luke story is super dark. It's super dark. That's just, and so the movie almost has two completely different tones.
Oh yeah, especially during the final act when you're getting it cut back and forth between Luke, Vader, and the Emperor, which is very dark, very suspenseful, menacing, and then you have the Ewok battle against the Empire, and it's violent for what it is. Ewoks dying and stuff, but it's still got this happy-go-lucky feeling to it.
Yeah,
because there's a hell of a lot of comedy in it when the troopers that are on those riders or whatever, they're spinning around and slamming into the trees. It's still violent, but it's more of a
It's comedic action.
comedic.
Gold.
It's comedic action.
Mm-hmm.
It's. Would you say? Go ahead.
Gold God.
Yeah. So I mean, well, let's get into the movie a little bit. Now, this takes place when we got to Empire. It was 3 years from the end of A New Hope, and they're on the ice planet Hoth. Here, it takes place 1 year later.
Okay.
1 year later, the Empire is building a new Death Star. Vader, Vader is on the warpath. He starts out right on everybody's ass.
Yep.
I hope for your sake that you do get this. Like, he lands that ship right in the middle and just starts reaming that fucking guy. And then he says, because the Emperor is coming. You think that Vader is the one to be afraid of.
Yep.
And then you realize when he says that the Emperor is coming, that Vader's like the good cop.
Yeah.
Vader is. I don't know if they had a different actor. Vader just looked bigger. I don't know.
No, it was still David Prowse.
Was it really? Okay.
Maybe he might have looked bigger because lots of times he's standing next to the Emperor. The Emperor's kind of hunched over.
Okay. No, I saw a couple scenes and I saw him turn around and I'm like, geez, he's sort of broadened the shoulders. Maybe they changed the outfit a little bit. Put some shoulder pads in there or something.
And there are times when he's talking to, I don't know if you would call them the lieutenants or whatever that work for the Empire. They're always looking up at him too. So so I think it's a lot of camera trickery.
It's just a lot of scale. Okay. Yeah, and he's like, the Emperor is, and Vader is already force choked like 100 people probably, throughout the story. But he's like, the Emperor is not as forgiving as I am.
And what I like about this is we had a little bit of taste from, I said it in our Strikes Back episode. We have a little bit of taste of who the Emperor is because this is somebody Vader takes orders from. And then we get even more mystery because now we're going to see him, and everyone knows who he is because the lieutenant or whatever, he responds by like shuddering, saying the Emperor's coming here. So he knows, he needs a change of pants right now. You know what I mean? He's terrified.
It's just bad, man. Vader is just a straight gangster, man.
Yep.
I mean, he's just a thug and a fucking killer, and he's just got a black fucking heart, and he's angry. Because we understand now, looking through the lens of the prequels, why he would be such an angry, person. But he just comes across in these 3 movies, and you're just like, holy shit, this is like a terrifying character. He's got to be like in the top 3 all-time villains.
Oh yeah,
and his agenda's changed in this one too because now he's looking for his son.
Yeah.
So he's twice as serious.
Yeah, he's just ruthless now because it's kind of personal. It's kind of personal. We get back to Tatooine. We get to sort of spend some time with Jabba. Again, they're interesting effects. They're interesting effects with Jabba. I have the special edition Blu-rays and DVDs. And so you got like the singing number in there, and I'm like, oh man, I don't want to.
Yeah, there was a singing number in the original because I have the DVDs where it wasn't theatrical, and they were done with Muppets and puppets. So there was a dance sequence, but it wasn't as in your face and obnoxious.
This was like a music video. This was almost a music video.
It was maybe the original version is maybe Gore, 20 seconds long. If that.
I've seen it at the theater in 1983. I watched it at the theater, and it's much shorter, and you can tell that it's done by physical animation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Guys, carry on for a second. I'll be right back. Just a second. All right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Sorry. Hold on. Be right back.
No, that's fine.
They hadn't smoothed it all out and everything yet.
I know, but see, the thing I like is because that's the thing I was wondering because I'm sure Mike watched the special editions, which I do like, but I think when they added it and they made it all CGI and stuff because at the time that's what Lucas was obsessed with. Yes. To me, it took away some of the charm. You know what I mean? I didn't care that we didn't see the lead singing alien's mouth not moving and stuff like that. It was still charming. And with these special edition versions of it, at least this musical number, I guess you would say, I mean, it's so in your face. It's so much more comedic, like we were saying, and unnecessary. It was cool seeing Boba Fett in the back, trying to hook up with an alien chick. That was funny.
Like a New Hope. Like a New Hope when they added Jabba, Jabba scene to outside the bar when he comes and sees Han Solo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That wasn't originally shot. That wasn't originally shot. That wasn't a deleted scene. That was a new scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the conversation that Solo has with Jabba.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
And he's trying to explain, I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't in the original. And what had happened was, I had, if you remember the old Books A Million, they're still around, the bookstores. They used to sell used DVDs and Blu-rays.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found this box set of the trilogy on DVD and Blu-ray used for $30.
It's a good price.
So I was like, okay, the price is right, mine.
Yep.
Because you'll find like 8 copies of Terminator 3, but you never, find something like this just laying around in there. And so like they must have just put it out that day. It's like mine. But then I realized, of course, that it's the special editions.
Mm-hmm.
It's the special editions. And I'm surprised that they have it at some point. What they should, or I don't know if Lucas is doing this, they should offer versions or releases with both.
They did. I have DVD special editions, and it was like a limited time. I was just lucky to find them at Kmart. Remember when we still had Kmart's?
Yeah.
It's a 2-disc. One is the special edition, and one is the theatrical. And they've been out of print. Nice. They've been out of print for decades. And
that's
I don't know
black box, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where Luke's doing this?
Yes, the old timey covers. Yep.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And it's just I don't know why he won't release it. See, even Spielberg, like when Spielberg redid E.T., and he improved some of the special effects on the E.T. puppet, I guess you would say, and he took away the shotguns and replaced them with flashlights when they're going after the kids. Spielberg also said no matter what, sure he's going to release the special edition on DVD and Blu-ray, but you will always have the choice to watch the theatrical version.
Don't take away the original iconic versions. Right. If you're gonna give us new, give us what we fell in love with to begin with too.
And that's why Spielberg did it. He said he will always have that theatrical edition with his special edition, so you can watch whichever one you want.
Well, what's happened, and especially even in A New Hope, Han doesn't shoot first.
Right.
In the special editions,
Grotto
shoots first.
And the thing
is,
like,
wait a minute, Han shoots. I remember going frame by frame. Like, wait a minute, did Grotto fucking shoot first? Mm-hmm. I'm like, no, Han. Oh, man.
And the thing is like I said, I get it. When Lucas wanted to improve the special effects, sure, but when he changes character arcs, like you expect Han to shoot first. But what he did is the fact is, he all these special effects he has, all this fucking money he had, the effect he did, he thought he was going to make Han cool by kind of dodging his head from the laser blast from Greedo. It's such a bad, movement, such a bad edit. It was like, what's the point?
I've heard that. Go ahead, Gore.
I say I didn't know that they changed that. I thought the had always shot first.
Yeah, he changed it once with the special editions. That was one of the ones he has Greedo shoot. It hits the wall, and Han really badly digitized head kind of moves out of the way and then takes him out.
So now you're changing your whole movie when you do shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it changes like Han from being a badass.
Yeah.
He's not he's not the fucking initiator. He's the guy on the defensive.
Yeah, it just makes Greedo look like he's a lousy shot. That's all it is.
Whole character. It changes Han's whole character.
Yeah.
And the real zealots, I mean, they'll tell you that like they can see like the difference in the score. The score, like the musical score, and I'm like, okay, I don't see that far ahead, but like the real fucking zealots are out there, and you're like, Jesus Christ, all right. So I mean, I guess I'm pleased with what I got.
Mm-hmm.
Don't misunderstand me, but it wouldn't be bad if you could get those originals. But now he signed them over to Disney, so I wouldn't bet my grandmother on it. So that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. Now, I think Bill had mentioned that Jabba, one of the initial ideas for Jabba was that he would just be a fat gangster.
Yeah,
like he wasn't supposed to be like he wasn't like the Hutts weren't supposed to be like, these creature effects.
Right, because in the special edition for A New Hope, when Han's talking to Jabba, it's literally before they put Jabba in, Han's literally talking to a big overweight dude in, like, I don't know if it's a trench coat or like he looks kind of like a friar or whatever it is, but he's just walking around talking to Han in English, what
like
Jabba
Kingpin.
is saying to him, and he I don't want to say he looked intimidating, but I could see where they could have gone with it.
Yeah.
Kind of
like a space gangster. Yeah, like a Kingpin, Kingpin, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. What that is, in my opinion, the best villain that Marvel has released.
Mm-hmm.
And he's non MCU, but he's Vincent D'Onofrio is just that was fucking aces. Yeah, I mean, just it's a great fucking show, Daredevil. So we got the musical number, but they're releasing him. Luke arrives. He kills the Rancor.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty cool. Seeing the Rancor is pretty cool. The Sarlacc pit, and you see, fucking Leia strangles fucking Jabba with the chain. And I'm like, oh shit! Like she's fucking murdering his ass.
She's badass enough as it is in the first one. She gets more badass in Empire, and then now what does she do? She's rescuing her man. Like this is this ongoing thing. We're saying, it's not Captain Marvel. It's not any of these MC Black Widow. You go back to Ellen Ripley. You go back to Sarah Connor. You go back to Princess Leia.
Yeah.
Once again, now in Return of the Jedi, she's saving her man.
Yeah.
And then sure, she's captured and she's sexualized by Jabba. Yeah. But what does she do? She doesn't just kill him. She strangles the life out of him.
Yeah.
And that's what makes her so cool. And then what does she do? She gets out on the sail barge and she's taking out people as well. And it's just.
And she looks great in a fucking two-piece.
Yes, she does. So
you see her by today's standards. I mean, she was in shape.
Mm-hmm.
She had like the abs and everything like that. You're like, fuck, man. She was good looking.
She looked good and kicked ass.
Yeah.
She's always been like that. Remember in the very first one, in A New Hope, the first thing she did when she got Harry, she grabbed up a gun out of there and started shooting at these motherfuckers.
Yeah. Yeah.
She was the first one to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of the all-time great cinema badasses, and probably again, in the top 2 or 3 in terms of sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
She was 16 years old.
She was very young at that time. Yeah, something along those lines. Jeez. So, we get back to the Emperor, and then that part was not light. That was somewhat serious to see Han come out of the carbonite, because thank God he signed the contract to come back for a third movie, and they got him in there. Otherwise, he still would be in. Although that would have been an interesting flex too.
Mm-hmm.
To see him on the wall and he never comes out of the carbonite. That would have been kind of cool. Yeah. But then we get back to the. People are. When I first saw that Sarlacc pit scene and they described what happened, and you watch people start going down in there, I mean, that's pretty horrifying.
Oh yeah. Was it you're digested over like 1,000 years
over
or something?
1,000 years, yes. Yeah. Slowly digested.
Boba Fett had been. My son checked it out, and my son knows this stuff. I guess Boba Fett had been down in that thing somehow saved his own life like 80 some times out of that thing.
I haven't watched the Book of Boba Fett. It hasn't been, kind of on my to-do list. But I mean, I'm not a huge Boba Fett fan, and I knew lots of Star Wars fans that are. I never understood why necessarily. I mean, he was kind of cool, capturing Solo, and we talked about it in the movie. He's for a second there, he's going nose to nose with Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of cool, but I don't remember back then, even because I saw this in the theater as a kid. I guess in '83, I was about 14 or something like that, and he didn't make that much of an impression.
In Jedi, he's kind of a joke. He can be in Empire. We mentioned, like, he's talking to Vader. He knows who Vader is. He's not intimidated by Vader. He's there for the money. He's like he's no good to me dead. That whole stuff. Yeah. But then by the time Return of the Jedi comes, he pulls a gun out on Luke, and the gun gets cut in half right away.
Yeah.
He's literally killed by Han on an accident.
Yeah, accidentally.
And it's not just that, like, he isn't accidentally just knocked into the Sarlacc. His jetpack is accidentally hit. He flies through the air, hits the side of the fucking wall, and then tumbles into it. So he goes from being really cool to being kind of pathetic. And it's just, that's what's just disappointing, you know?
They were caught off guard.
Huh?
They got caught off guard. They had everybody. They thought they had everybody where they wanted them.
Mm-hmm.
They wasn't expecting them to pull that out of their ass. You know what I mean? They thought they had them, and they were going to walk them all off there into there. They weren't prepared. They got cocky.
Yeah, it's a little. It's a good plan. I mean, you know, Luke's got the fucking lightsaber inside R2.
I'll say this: that one of my favorite lines of the movie is in this scene. It's when both Han and Luke are on, basically they're walking the plank, and Luke looks out. He's like, I grew up here. And then Han looks at him. He's like, well, you're gonna die here, huh? Still to the end, he's this cynical, smart ass fucker. You know what I mean? Han is.
Yeah. I mean, 2 seconds out of the carbonite, and he's already trying to negotiate with. I'll give you your money. Give me a minute. You know, he's already trying to haggle with Jabba. I mean, it's just. Again, these are some of the all-time great sci-fi characters. Just all coming out of this one story. And a lot of these guys are just, the bedrock foundation of what makes up modern sci-fi.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's such a cool thing. That we grew up in that era where you could. Eric, you might be a little bit younger than us. I'm not sure where you're at, Gore, but I mean, to be able to see this in the theater, when it first came out, that's kind of cool.
I was too young to see it in the theater. I was born in 81, but this played. My dad had it recorded off of HBO, so this VHS played many, many times in my house. And this was honestly, as a kid, this is the one I watched the most. But obviously, it's because I was a kid.
Yeah. So it's the most identifiable. Yeah, I got you. So we drop from there back to the Emperor, and the Emperor wants Luke.
Mm-hmm.
And you're already starting to get the impression of what we know now is that the Emperor probably wants Luke so he can get rid of Vader.
Mm-hmm.
And then and then Vader also wants Luke maybe so he could kill the Emperor.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was the offer at the end of the last movie.
Right.
You and I can rule the galaxy together.
Mm-hmm.
So like everybody, these guys, they just want to kill each other. They're like master and servant, but like each of them wants to kill the other. It's really sick.
What I like is this is just my opinion. I picked it up, as I grew older. The Emperor knows the whole thing. He knows that Vader's plotting against him, but he's allowing it to happen.
Yeah, because that's just the nature of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's always the nature with the Sith.
Yeah,
huh?
Rule of two.
Yeah,
rule of two. Yep.
Yeah, and somebody almost the apprentice always wants to be the master.
Mm-hmm.
Except the Emperor plans on putting a little bit of wrench in that. He knows what Vader wants to do, but what he wants to do is a little different. He plans on getting rid of Vader and bringing his son in and being his new guy.
Mm-hmm.
So he's the first Sith to never agree with that rule of two and want to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. We go back to the Dagobah. Yoda dies.
Mm-hmm.
He's in here very briefly.
Right.
Very, very briefly. And then he kind of dies. Marquand didn't, I think that he wasn't supposed to return at all, but then Marquand thought that it was important for consistency.
Yeah, it's like closing a chapter on a book. You know what I mean? I think.
Yeah, and also that he wanted Luke to be able to ask the question to have Yoda verify if Vader was his father.
Mm-hmm.
Because they said they didn't. They actually brought in a child psychologist, and they thought it would be important for children not to see that Vader had lied.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So from like a father to a son, like would somebody actually be that low?
True.
to claim to be your father, and have that not be the case, because for everybody who's seen that for the first time, it's a revelation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Yoda sort of goes off into the ether again. Yoda doesn't feel bad about the lies of omission.
Mm-mm.
He doesn't. He doesn't. Hey, he's just he's on him about something else. Automatically, you have to confront Vader.
And it's still a great performance by Frank Oz, as short as it is.
Yeah.
I love how Yoda tries to avoid answering the question.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he says, "Oh no, is he my Yoda? Is he my father? Oh, I'm too old to continue to train you or whatever."
Yeah.
And then finally he basically says, "Give me a fucking answer." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And one way or another. And Yoda just kind of sighs and he says, "Your father, he is," but he says it like breathing out, with a sigh, like he didn't really want to say it.
Those are almost his last words.
Mm-hmm.
Because he knows that's Anakin's son. He remembers how Anakin was. Anakin was really emotional. He was a little unstable with it.
Mm-hmm.
He knows that's Anakin's boy. He's afraid of, you know what I mean? Because he wants him to stay focused. He wants him to defeat Vader. He doesn't want to get him emotionally all fucked up and give him too much info and get him all drawn in with that.
Right.
Which is almost that's almost an impossible needle to thread.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
He's already lost his hand. This guy's his father. He wants him to confront him again.
Mm-hmm.
And by confront him, they mean kill him.
Right.
And he knows that,
so they're asking a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They're not giving much, and they're asking a hell of a lot.
Not giving, but they keep one take.
Yeah. They take for their purposes too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not all the benevolent society, and this sort of thing. There's a very cold logic to what they do.
Yeah, you find that out coming up when he meets Obi-Wan again.
Yeah, and he goes, from a certain point of view, I didn't lie to you. You're like,
yeah, you son of a bitch. Yeah.
What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a Hannibal Lecter answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yet they know he wasn't ready for the burden. Yoda says himself, he says, because ready for the burden, you were not. See, so they're not blind to what they put him through and what he's been through for the last 4 years,
But you could see why it would make sense if they ended it the way that I sort of mentioned, where Luke just sort of walks off disgusted, and just, just sort of fades off,
right.
Just sort of walks into the sunset.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, hey, it's been nice, but fuck off, and I don't want to ever see any of you ever the fuck again. Fuck off and die. All of you.
If anything, just to get his shit back together.
Yeah. You would think. Yeah. Thanks. I'm done with all of you. I appreciate it. I could have stayed. I could have stayed back on Tatooine and been like a fucking sand farmer or something like that. It would have been a lot like maybe Uncle fucking Ben knew what he was talking about. Yeah. There's another Uncle Ben, that actually knew what the deal was,
Yep.
and they didn't listen to him. Jesus.
Owen, yeah.
So, Owen, yeah, Uncle Owen. We've got the Alliance. Now, they're talking about the Bothan spies that have, procured the information about the new Death Star and that the Emperor is going to be on board, and they're talking about how all these Bothan spies have died trying to, get this information out. That would be a great fucking movie.
Yeah. It could be it sounds like it'd be like another Rogue One to me.
Yeah. That's just a great fucking story. You would love to see something like that, especially when you find out, of course, that the Emperor just let them die, knowing that they got the information anyway.
Yep.
That would be a great fucking story. Instead, I don't know exactly what we're getting the. I don't know what's coming after Obi-Wan. Is it Ironheart or is that an MCU thing? They're getting off. I think they're getting off into some obscure characters or something, like people that and you're just like, okay, all right.
Yeah,
sometimes throughout this, we're supposed to be getting a series based on the Sith, and I can't remember what it's called, but that's a plan they had. I don't know if they're still doing it, but
All right. Well, I mean, we've got, I think, 20 days. 20 days to Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
Obi-Wan hits Disney. This is my last gasp for Star Wars. I'm hoping they get it right. I've been waiting. We've been waiting a long time for the Obi-Wan series. I'm going to watch it, and just keep my fingers crossed. That's how they keep bringing the older people back. With hope.
Yeah. That trailer that they released a couple days ago, it looked pretty fucking good. I'll give it that.
Oh yeah,
we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's out now. Yeah, they released it yesterday.
Yep.
The new Obi-Wan trailer dropped, so check it out after this.
Cool.
So we get to the and we get another reference when we see Lando again. They're back with the Alliance, the Battle of Tanab. I wouldn't mind seeing something like that. A Lando war movie, because I really wasn't crazy about the Solo movie.
I liked it,
but it would be good to see him in
his own movie.
Well, in an Empire movie.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Related to the Empire, that kind of thing. And they're basically just going to the forest moon of Endor to knock down the shield. And that's where we meet the Ewoks.
You sound so thrilled, Mike.
Fucking Ewoks. Well, I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
It's been 40 years, and here we are. Would I have minded a planet full of Wookiees? Yeah, because here's where the tone of the film just completely changes and becomes uneven. Like what happens on Tatooine is actually quite dark with the Rancor. And they're going to go into the Sarlacc pit. That has more of a New Hope kind of vibe to it, New Hope Danger kind of vibe. It's not quite as dark as Empire, but it's not,
it's not happy-go-lucky.
No, it's not happy-go-lucky. And then you've got a definite Empire vibe when you get introduced to the Emperor. So you've got this dark, and then you've got this super dark, kind of, seesaw going back and forth. And then you get to Endor with the Ewoks, and I'm not exact. I mean, clearly this is a merchandising thing, but it changes the consistency of the film. And I was watching it this morning. I'm like, fuck the whole. And then what ends up happening is because Ewoks, whatever, but. I mean, it ends up going back and then it becomes like a real seesaw, between Vader, the Emperor, Luke,
right,
Ewoks, and like 3PO becomes a god.
Yeah,
that was kind of funny because I like 3PO. He's my first neurotic. Like
what I think was cool. What I would have liked it if they would have kept the Ewoks to seem how vicious they were. When we first met them, they were going to. It seemed like they were going to cook the rebels, and then it became the goofy stuff. You know what I mean? Like I sent you that in the group text. We were talking. How did they have a uniform Leia size unless they already cooked and ate a woman that was already there?
I think
that's like a major tonal shift too. You know what I mean?
I think it would have been awesome if, like, in the Lost World, when in the beginning of that movie, where all those little fucking dinosaurs eat that little girl. If it had been something like if they had just eaten somebody, okay, then then you would have been okay. But of course, that doesn't happen,
right?
And it turns into teddy bear land. Yeah, I mean, there's not much to get into with the. I mean, even the battle is kind of eh.
The battle.
I enjoyed the pod chase, the chase scene in the jungle. That still holds up.
Yeah, but it's just like I said. It goes back and forth in between tone. You have, the Ewoks, throwing spears and stuff like that, and then you have Ewoks dying. But then suddenly you see Wicket smacking himself in the face with a slingshot. You know what I mean? So it's just. You got to pick a tone. Do you want to be, 50-50 near the road? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you want to be goofy or do you want to be violent? It's just all
Yeah.
crammed into one battle.
And that could have been easier too if the Ewoks would have been in smaller doses, like maybe half the amount of Ewoks we got. It could have been a lot easier to balance out.
Mm-hmm.
I always wanted half the Ewoks that we got.
Got Gretchen in here saying, "Hey, thanks for stopping in, Gretchen. Always cool to have you here on the show." Yeah, I mean, I'll probably focus a bit more on the Luke story because Luke realizes that he actually has to surrender.
Mm-hmm. Before we get into that, I think that's another reason why, at least me, I'm not as pleased with the Endor stuff, is because how good and dark the Luke, Vader, and Emperor stuff is.
Yeah,
I think that it also knocks against the Endor stuff, in my opinion.
As I sit here and think about the Endor stuff, I can't think of anything that I'd really want to have a discussion about necessarily.
Yeah,
you just kind of, okay, we got Ewoks. It's the third movie. Let's just, because, there's the fight to get, into the, to knock the shield down.
Mm-hmm.
But that battle is kind of,
there's not much to it.
Yeah, there's not much to it. You got Ewoks throwing rocks and tripping up a couple of the machines and this sort of thing. But I think, the title of the movie is Return of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
And originally, I think they had plans to name it Revenge of the Jedi.
Yes, they had posters printed as well of that too. They had printing them.
Yeah, which they ended up selling for like $9.95 at like these, different shops. So you could order. Can you imagine how much those might be worth nowadays?
A lot. They are
more than the three of us have ever made in our lives, guys.
Entirely possible, my friend.
Yeah, especially the one sheets, like you said. Yeah,
especially the actual theatrical one sheets, the ones that they were going to put in the theater.
Yeah. That's just someone's just sitting there. Just watching the money pile up as they watch it sit there. Maybe they'll take it out, once a year to look at it for like 30 seconds. And, geez, that must be worth something. Well,
it says right here. I mean, I just Googled it, and the first thing that popped up was someone is selling it on eBay for $1,300.
For a fucking poster.
For an actual one sheet or a replica.
It's a second advance. It says poster, but it says 1982.
So it's a second print.
Yeah, $1,300 plus $100 in shipping.
And that's for second print. So
yeah. My God.
It makes me. I have a lot of my comics from childhood, but there were a lot of other things that I had from back in the day that I didn't really take care of, that I wish that I did. Some of the old Marvel and Power Records pressings on 45 and LP that went along with the, with the comic, this sort of thing. And, I was watching another YouTuber the other day who's my age. He's like 52. But he went all the way with it. I mean, he ended up opening up a comic book store, this, that, or the other. And, he pulled out some of those pressings that I had from when I was a kid, and he's got them all sealed up and bagged and they're in mint condition. I'm like, fuck, man.
All right, I found it. Revenge of the Jedi. Revenge of the Jedi, original 1982 teaser poster with the date saying coming March 25th, 1983 to your galaxy. $9,995 on eBay, but free shipping.
Okay. Well, hold on. I gotta go, guys. I gotta get on eBay. Hold on. That free shipping
is for a poster.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy
because
shit.
that's actual memorabilia. That's history.
Yeah.
That's history.
Yeah. True. That's limited edition. There aren't many of those.
Right.
There aren't many of those. I mean, that got corrected quickly, and they went back with return. And I imagine probably a mint condition return would get you a couple of bucks.
Yeah.
Oh hell yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
But to have one of those Revenge, holy shit, $10,000 for a
especially
fucking poster.
Especially if it actually hung in a theater.
Mm-hmm.
That jacks it up too.
Yep.
So we get to this part of the story where Luke figures out that he has to surrender, which is that's bold writing. That's bold. There's no confrontation. He just somebody came up with the idea that he's going to voluntarily turn himself into the Empire. You know, and I remember, you know, watching another YouTuber, and he was talking about, you know, that's just one of the great storylines. You know, as much as, you know, what they did with, or at least in my opinion, what they did with Luke Skywalker in the years, you know, recently, that's just one of the great things, you know, that this man would defeat evil with mercy. You know, I mean, that's just one of the great story arcs, you know, of all time, that he would go in there and try to speak to his father and try to, you know, draw that, you know, love back, you know, or bleed some love back into his father's heart, you know, at the risk of his own life and the risk of his friends' lives.
Yep. That's,
you know,
where
that's real Jedi, you know, action.
And that's where a lot of it, I think we kind of mentioned how Hamill's okay in the first two. I think he's a better voice actor than he is a physical actor, you know, in person. But
Joker, yeah.
you got to give him credit for Return of the Jedi, especially when he's playing off of Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Now, James Earl Jones deserves a hell of a lot of fucking credit too. But like, one of my favorite scenes is when they're just literally walking down. It's like walking down the Green Mile. You know what I mean? They're gonna go see the Emperor, and Luke says something. He's like, "I believe that you were once Anakin Skywalker, my father." And then immediately, Darth Vader turns to him. He's got the lightsaber in his hand. Luke's like, and he's like shaking it, like he's talking down to his kid.
Yeah.
And he says, "That name has no more meaning to me."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
because I understand the power of the dark side. I must obey my master.
Yeah.
Yeah. He goes, I accept that you. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I apologize.
I was gonna say, there's also that one line. He says, "It's too late for me." You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he calls him son.
It's too late for me, son. Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, and you can hear the emotion in James Earl Jones's voice.
Yes.
You know, the regret. For the first time, he starts to sound like a human being again. You know, and that, yeah, you're right. That's what Luke says. I accept that you were once Anakin Skywalker, my father.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and it's.
Yeah, he says, I don't believe you'll turn me over to the Emperor. And after he says, don't underestimate the power of the dark side. And then Luke's like, then my father truly is dead.
Yes.
And after he walks away, Vader's like, he actually hangs his head.
Yeah. Because.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah, extremely
really
powerful stuff. I don't recall believing at the time that I saw it in the theater that Vader was able to be turned. I didn't believe it. I didn't believe, but then again, I was 14.
Yeah.
You know, and now I look at it through the, you know, the lens of, you know, thousands of years later,
right?
You know, and thousands of, you know, experiences later, and I'm like, wow, he's really doing something, you know, fucking bold.
Yep.
You know, and he's betting everything on it. But over all of this is the Emperor. You know, he's a slimy evil. He's just evil, man. I mean,
Ian McDermott is so great in this role.
A boogeyman. He's a
boogeyman.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a perfect fucking description. He's a fucking boogeyman. Holy shit. Because Skywalker is on a suicide mission, really. You know, that you know, that occurred to me. I'm like, fuck, he's going up there to die, probably. He probably realizes he's going to die. There's a small possibility he can, you know, turn his father and redeem him, but there's a much larger probability that, you know, he's just going to die up there because he's not going to go to the dark side.
Right. He's hoping to change his father, but he's expecting to die. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. He's expecting to have to kill his father.
Yeah, I don't think
or his father kill him, more like.
Right.
Yeah, I think he knew that probably would be the way he died, because he would refuse to kill his father. And then maybe his father would kill him.
And he tries.
Yeah, and and by the end he still refuses to kill him, even after he loses his shit. at the end, he still refuses to kill his dad, no matter what.
He disarms him instead. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he disarms him. And then he sees, and I thought that this was a vital part, that Vader lost his hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then he saw that he had already lost his hand.
Mm-hmm.
And this idea that Vader was, at this point, more machine than man.
Mm-hmm.
And he could see, himself taking that first 1 or 2 steps into the path that his father took.
He's more like his father than he realized.
Well, that if he continued down this road, that these battles would continue, that he would continue to be injured, that he would continue to lose parts of himself. He has already lost his hand.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when he turns the lightsaber off.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I'm done. I've disarmed my father. I'm not going to kill him. If I kill him, then I'm already on the dark side.
Right.
Exactly.
In which case it doesn't make a difference how many times I say no. I'm already over there. I can see what you've done to my father.
Mm-hmm.
I can see what this has already cost me. I've disabled him. That's as far as I'm willing to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that, is kind of where he makes his stance.
Yeah, but before that, it's just I love that little. Before he almost took out Vader, I loved their fight between the two of them. It was a perfect game of cat and mouse.
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, when Luke's hiding, he's trying to concentrate. But you know what I mean? Vader, when he just finds out, he says, if I can't turn you, I'll turn your... And then he's surprised when he says, sister. Yeah. Again, James Earl Jones' voice, the way he raises it a little bit, a couple octaves when he says, sister, like, oh, really? Oh, shit. Okay. Fine, maybe I don't need you. You know what I mean? Or he was right. Either she will turn, or he was doing that to manipulate Luke to come out of hiding and go nuts. Either way, that when Luke is going crazy and just hacking at him, the score, the way it's shot, the darkness, that is a perfect sequence, in my opinion, in that fucking movie. And then again, credit to Mark Hamill, because he gives the Emperor an ultimate fuck you after he cuts off Vader's hand, and Vader screams. All you hear is his breathing. Luke looks at his hand, and then he looks at the Emperor, and he says no, and he chucks his lightsaber. He says, "I will not join the dark side."
Yeah,
it's a great fucking sequence.
It's good stuff, man.
That's when Emperor realized that he's lost.
Mm-hmm.
So now, fuck it. I'll keep Vader, and I'll just kill you and watch, and I'll make your dad watch me do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's such, throughout the dialogue between the Emperor and Luke, it's just all obvious button pushing.
Mm-hmm.
He's just pushing his buttons to make him angry, to make him frustrated. To watch the battle outside, that isn't going well.
Yeah. When
you want to do something about it? Here's this thing right here. You could, take this and,
or
he's just
when,
awful.
When the Emperor says, your friends will be quite surprised when they find out the space station is operational. You know what I mean? So he lured them all in. Yeah.
He's a rotten bastard, man.
Gore said it perfectly. The shroud, the makeup, the yellow eyes.
Oh, yeah.
He is literally a boogeyman.
Yeah.
The boogeyman, yes.
Yeah.
Jeez. Awful. There is a little bit of action going on outside. Lando gets to fly the Millennium Falcon, which is always cool.
That is cool. He gets to be back in his baby. I love it.
Yeah. He figures that right away. Something's off.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, wait a minute, why would this? Oh shit! He's like, we got to get out of here. Everybody, turn around.
Why are those why are those Star Destroyers not moving? He's putting two and two together.
Yeah. Lando figures it out right away that the whole thing is a trap. You've got Admiral Akbar, which is fucking really good puppeteering.
Mm-hmm.
It's a trap. It's a trap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Admiral, that's a great fucking meme. But I mean, that's bygone artistry.
Mm-hmm.
You don't that. You don't see that anymore. We talked about that when we talked about Empire and what Frank fucking Oz did with with Yoda. I mean, the expressiveness.
Yep.
You know, and you're just like, fuck, man, that's a puppet. Like, how is that? I mean, that's just master level work. I mean, you know, it's just unbelievable.
Jim Henson Studios at its best, man.
Jeez,
That
I mean,
era.
just everything just coming together, everything, and that's what we talked about. When we talk about Sturgeon's Law. You get that one film, you know, that's just firing on every fucking level. You know, and it's checking every fucking box. Like everything is just, you know, 7-star. And that's what you got. And this movie isn't that. But there are a lot of things that are fucking working for it.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, geez. I mean, these are the days when waiting for something for 3 years was worthwhile.
Oh, yeah.
You know, 3 years. And yeah, I mean, you know, I walked out of there, I'm like, fuck, that was great, you know, and you know, you look back on it now and, you know, you can poke at it someone like, yeah, this is uneven. And, you know, did you need this? And you look at, now you have access to, you know, all these behind the scene things that, you know, you can just dial up on your phone, you know, and you start to wonder about what all the what ifs were. But I mean, in many respects.
And the only reason that we look at it that way now is because of what we have now. You know, we wouldn't even be looking at it like that now if we didn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
no, wait. Talk about that for a little bit.
Well, no. What I say is the only reason we look back at it now and notice, you know, it was uneven and all that kind of stuff. You know, we didn't notice that so much then because it was so great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, you know, we're able to see little tiny flaws in it now because of what we got now has so many flaws. You know what I mean?
True.
Yeah, it's very true.
That makes sense.
And I think also because we do these types of shows, I mean, my eye was somewhat sharp. I don't know that it's super sharp now, but it's gotten sharper since I started doing this show and looking at these films through the lens of like extended discussion.
Right. There's a different way to look at it. Like if I'm doing like an extensive discussion, like for your channel, I'm going to pay attention to it a hell of a lot more, unless other than like say I'm going to do one for my channel because you know with my videos I just shoot the shit like this and that and that. It depends on the way you're gonna. That's not going to change my love for a film. You know what I mean? It's just you always are going to look at a film differently, especially if you're looking at it on social media for a different reason. You know what I mean?
And the unevenness of those great shows is so minimal. Really, it's so minimal in compared to the unevenness we have all around it. Everything else.
Yeah. You know, there are no Princess Leia's nowadays.
Right.
There are no princess. You just got, you know, the Mary Sues, you know, the Rays, and the, you know, like everybody's perfect from the get go. You know, there's no story arc because you know it's this thing nowadays. You're perfect the way you are. You know, and you're like, okay, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just, you know, that's where we are nowadays. So they knocked the Death Star out. Now the original. Okay, so let's get back to Vader.
Sure.
I mean, you know, Vader is moved by the suffering of his son.
He's watching his son getting tortured.
Yeah, because I mean, the Emperor's too, you know, he's too sadistic not to just torture him to death. You can't just kill him.
Right.
He's got to torture him to death.
Yeah, he goes like through three or four different uses of that lightning. Like he'll shock him for a couple seconds and then he'll stop and then do it again.
And they drag it on and they build up that tension. You know what I mean? They drag that in. Vader's looking back and forth. He's looking at the Emperor. He's looking at Luke. He's looking at the Emperor.
Yeah.
Nice.
And you look at it now and you realize what a tragic story Darth Vader actually is. You know, he probably, I mean, you know, he was definitely manipulated.
Oh, absolutely.
He was manipulated. He was lied to. He wasn't treated the greatest by many people in the Jedi Council necessarily.
Right.
You know, and, you know, it turned into, you know, just, you know, enormous catastrophe. but in the end, Luke is successful in redeeming some of his, or in bringing his humanity back.
Mm-hmm.
And he chucks that bastard right over the balcony.
Yeah, I love it. And go into that, like you're saying, he chucks him off, and he saves his son at the extent of his own life, at the cost of his own life.
Yeah.
Again, to me, you saw him slowly. I don't know if you would say turn Vader, but he was considering it. You can see
him pause.
Yeah, that cold-hearted bastard that we saw in Empire was starting to turn a little bit. He was having general conversations. His voice changed when he was talking to Luke. He made it again. James Earl Jones, he made it seem like Vader wanted to stop doing what he was doing so he could be with Luke, but he couldn't. So that's what I thought was great. And then finally, at the expense of his own life, he still saved his son. The only person that gave a shit about him was his son.
Yeah.
You realize that.
Yeah.
He's that cold bastard all that time because he thought Luke was dead. He thought his kids had died along with Padme. So that's why he was that evil bastard. Second he finds out that, yes, my son is alive, that he immediately started changing.
Well, yeah, because there's a little bit of light in his life.
True.
All the deaths and the, you think about it. He's torturing his own daughter in the first movie.
Unknowingly.
He doesn't realize it's his daughter, but he's just doing awful thing after awful thing after awful thing. And after a while, you probably just closed yourself off to any possibility of
something good happening to you.
Redemption. Yeah, redemption happening to you. And he loses his life saving his son, but he ends up, bringing his soul back.
Mm-hmm.
He saves his soul.
Mm-hmm. And that's his final words are again, it's so good. He says, take my mask off, but you'll die. Let me look at you with my own eyes.
Yeah.
And then, he's telling Luke to get out because the Death Star is going to blow up. I got to save you. You already have, my son.
Yeah.
You already have. And then he goes.
Yeah.
That's a great character death, in my opinion.
And you can
great way to say thank you.
Yeah, you can see his skull is
cracked. He's bleach white because he hasn't gotten any sun in decades.
I thought that too. Like the sun must not have touched this face in decades.
Yep.
You saw a bit of that in Empire where you get a brief look at him, and how scarred up and deformed he is, and you're like, oh man, this poor bastard is just, and he's alone.
Mm-hmm.
He's alone, and everybody's afraid of him, and
Yeah, it honestly makes you think though. What does Vader do in his downtime? He's got nothing but himself.
He's in that tank.
Yep. And that's a miserable fucking life.
Yeah,
that suit was designed, number one, for him to limit his mobility. Number two, to not be able to take Force lightning. And number three, to keep him uncomfortable so that he will stay angry. The Emperor did that shit on purpose. If you read the books and the comic books, it talks about all that kind of stuff.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
It doesn't surprise
me. And then, what we see by the time we get to Revenge of the Sith, which I don't want to get into, but then he lies to him and says that he killed Padme.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You killed Padme.
Yes.
And you're just like, oh man, this poor bastard.
And that's how it started.
Yeah. No
wonder.
The
manipulation.
Yeah. He's been lying to him from the get-go. So, the only thing that's unfortunate is that the Emperor didn't suffer a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
There you go. They blow the Death Star. One of the things that was also under consideration was that they would all come back to life somehow. Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Anakin would actually have come back to life to have rejoined the celebration through the Force. What we got was okay. I have the version, of course, that shows Hayden Christensen. Special editions have introduced Hayden Christensen into the Force Ghosts. And Yeah,
I kind of like that.
I didn't mind it. I honestly didn't mind it. That is the point that he stopped being Anakin Skywalker.
Exactly.
You know,
I look at it this way. Maybe I'm just kind of a curmudgeon. I look at it this way. I mean, I get that reasoning, but he was Anakin when he also died. In my opinion, he was redeemed. Also, Luke has only seen what Darth Vader looks like in Jedi. When everyone's celebrating with the Ewoks, why didn't he wonder who the fuck is this ghost standing next to Yoda?
That guy standing there with Obi-Wan Yoda, yeah.
Exactly. Who is this young kid? I've never seen him before. That's just me. That's just being critical. I didn't like it. But it's not going to ruin the fucking movie for me. But that's just how I looked at it. Luke just, again, he just nods, stuff and walks to go celebrate. But who the fuck is this 21-year-old kid, hanging next to Yoda?
Is this show rubbing off on you, Eric?
I admit nothing.
Fucking thing. Who the fuck put that in there? You motherfucking. This is bullshit. I want my money back.
Yeah.
Completely offended, yeah.
No, man. I see your point.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw it because I was overseas when the lockdowns happened. And we went on spring break. We went on for a week. We had a week's vacation, and we never came back. We never came back. That was the lockdown. I never went back to work. And I was planning to go somewhere, and it just started to fire up. It was like March of 2020. And they're like, this is back when everybody thought we were all going to die. Remember, it was about a month there where everyone thought this was it, It was like the Spanish flu. And I'm like, well, I better cancel this appointment and just stay at home. Just cancel this holiday and just stay at home. And when I did that, I turned on the TV and Disney Plus had just arrived in India. So I'm like, oh, all right, that's fortuitous timing. I can finally watch The Mandalorian because I had wanted to watch it. And what I decided to do during the lockdown was, I said, you know what? I'm going to fucking treat myself. I'm going to go from The Phantom Menace. And actually, not, I lie, because I can't bear to watch The Phantom Menace. I started from Attack of the Clones. I went through the animated series and everything. And it took like a couple of months. It took like several months to do. I went through like the Clone Wars and Rebels and 4 through 6, and then finally got to The Rise of Skywalker, which at that point I hadn't seen. But I remember when I got through 6 on the Disney Channel, that was the first time I had seen Hayden Christensen. And I was like, oh, that's fucking different. And it just my default reaction was, I'm okay with it. Ryan's not a big fan of that.
Yeah.
Right.
I wouldn't imagine Ryan enjoying that part at all.
Yeah. Probably Bill maybe
No,
not Bill.
I don't see Bill enjoying it at all either.
I didn't have any feeling about it one way or the other. And Bill hasn't watched any of the animated series, so I developed a much stronger affinity for Anakin Skywalker through watching what Filoni did. And so when I saw him again, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm okay with that.
Okay, I can understand that though.
But I mean, if you haven't watched any of like Bill, I think he refuses to watch any of the, I should be getting it all from the trilogies. I'm like, yeah, that's never going to happen. But I mean, to me, those animated series have saved the franchise as much as they're shitting on it right now by fleshing out so much more material. I mean, it's fucking. Have you watched those shows?
Me, no, but you've done nothing but praise. I know at least the Clone Wars cartoon.
You Rebels, you've got to. The Bad Batch isn't bad either. The Bad Batch isn't bad. You should. If you got Disney, you should watch it. That's some good fucking shit.
The Clone Wars miniseries was good too. The one that was done several years before the other Clone Wars. That one was kick-ass.
Okay.
TV. That one's really good. I have that.
Yeah. All right. Now, this, of course, brings lots of spin-offs. I think we got Battlestar Galactica back in the day, and
Mm-hmm.
you know all these different types of shows. But I mean, nothing really equals Star Wars.
Not in my opinion, no.
It's just it's the first of its kind. It's the only of its kind,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the best.
Mm-hmm.
It's the
Yep.
best of its kind. So it's been a pleasure to discuss these three movies.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, a lot of good writing, great characters, great creativity, and just a lot of good memories. Like growing up watching this stuff, man. That's why I love talking about this type of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, my first indoor movie experience was The Empire Strikes Back. Everything else before that was at a drive-in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, good stuff. And here we are. Here I am, 40 years later. Still talking about it.
Yep.
And
with good reason.
Yeah, and with good feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And with good feeling. And so you can't say that about everything.
Right.
So
I'm curious. Just I mean, how do you guys truly feel as a whole about the prequel trilogy? Honestly,
Eric,
myself,
you want to go first?
I happen to be a fan of the prequel trilogy.
I look at it this way.
I don't like the sequel trilogy, but I do like the prequel trilogy.
There is not a Star Wars movie that I do not like in one way, shape, or form.
Okay.
The original trilogy, 4, 5, and 6.
You do a lot of good things, right? Oh, that's
the
best. Yeah.
The original trilogy, hands down, fantastic.
Right.
I saw like I mentioned, when we watch these movies for YouTube or podcasting or whatever, we tend to pick them apart a little bit easier. I'd seen the prequel trilogy before YouTube, so I looked at it like I would air quotes normally look at it. I had my problems with them, but I don't think they're as bad as a lot of people say. Right. I don't like Jar Jar. Sure, I didn't like Jake Lloyd. Sure, I didn't really like Hayden Christensen that much. But in my opinion, I think that falls more on the writing of the characters. Mm-hmm. And I think George Lucas was more focused on special effects than his writing. That's just me. But there's still some good, like Darth Vader, there's still some good in that bad if you want to look at it that way. I still can sit down and watch them and overall enjoy them.
I think as many bad characters as there is in the prequel trilogy, I think there's even more great characters. You got Darth Maul, you got Mace Windu. I mean, you've got Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah, Leia.
I mean, you know what I mean? You got some really good motherfuckers in there.
And I've always said that's why I'm very excited for the Obi-Wan TV series, because I absolutely love Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan.
Fantastic job, yes. Absolutely.
I have mixed feelings about it. Mm-hmm. I don't like the Phantom Menace. I like Maul. I love Maul. Mm-hmm. I think you had a lot of great characters that you could have done a lot more with.
Yeah.
And so as standalone movies, I'm not a fan. As I watch them with the Clone Wars series in supplement, it fleshes it out a lot more.
Okay.
Because for me, what I said about that trilogy was you had a Clone Wars trilogy with no Clone War.
True.
I'm like, where are the fucking wars? Like, where's the war?
Mm-hmm.
But when you put that together with the Clone Wars animated series, you've got something there. You've got something there. And that's how I watched it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, don't forget
about...
Go ahead.
Go ahead, man. I'd forgotten about one of the best characters in prequel trilogy, Christopher Lee as Count Dooku. You can't go wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And General Grievous is a pretty good fucking character too. But what happens is you go 1, 2, and then 7 seasons of the Clone Wars occur between 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think actually 6 seasons. And then the 7th season occurs somewhere as the 3rd movie is taking place.
Okay.
Like Order 66 goes down in the last season.
Okay.
Yeah. it shows you what you didn't see in the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's just so much more, and you're like, okay, this makes sense now.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like a puzzle, like a 1,000-piece puzzle, but I only have 300 pieces with the movies.
Mm-hmm.
And then these other things added those extra 700 pieces. And so what I sort of have grown to appreciate about it is that, especially when it comes to Anakin Skywalker, because that's what it's about, essentially, it's a cautionary tale.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is successful in, you know, that sort of, you know, don't be too arrogant. Don't, you know, estimate your own abilities, you know, those sorts of things.
Right.
Yeah, but it wasn't until I saw those other things. And yeah, you're right. There are a lot of great characters in there. I like Mace Windu. I like Qui-Gon. I love Darth Maul. I would have loved to have seen, you know, more of him in the movie. I would love to see more of Maul in a series.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah,
I would love if he was part of the Obi-Wan.
Yeah, in between what happened between Phantom and Solo. You know what I mean?
Right. That's one thing I like about Solo was the end part with Maul in it. I love that.
What they did with Maul in the Clone Wars animated series is just fucking operatic. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful to watch. It's beautiful to watch.
I love to if we could have got the Night Sister in a movie, that would have been badass. Night Sister's the best.
That's what I mean. There's just so much organic material that you could be making, you know, quality, you know, movies with, instead of making another Skywalker trilogy.
Right.
You know, even if you had taken 7 through 9 and made the main character Finn, like that would have been like you've got a rogue stormtrooper,
yeah,
who for 5 minutes in the first movie shows that he has a little bit of force.
Yeah.
You know, but instead, you know, he just ended up chasing Rey, and then he gets beat up by Kelly Marie Tran in the second movie, and you know, he just becomes the butt of jokes. Like you had the best character set up, like a fucking rogue stormtrooper. Holy shit, you know! And instead, you just turned him into, you know, someone that Rey always had to rescue the entire time, because, you know, that's what they're doing with these series now. The MCU is doing it with the same thing. It's these bait and switch characters, but that's a different conversation.
My problem with the MCU is they get a good villain and they have to kill him off at the end of that movie every time. Why do you got to kill a great villain every time? You don't got to kill them off at the end of every fucking movie. You get a great villain. You know?
They weren't doing that for a while. I mean, you had characters like Loki who were making it, and you know, a couple of others, you know. But yeah, I mean, I haven't seen it. I haven't watched an MCU movie since Endgame. I haven't watched one since Endgame, and I'm tempted sometimes, but I'm like, I know, like I've been saying this, you know, I'm at that point now where I can look at something and like tell with 90% certainty whether I'm going to enjoy it or not. You know, and be correct. And I look at like Shang-Chi and the Eternals and Black Widow, and I'm like, I'm gonna fucking hate that. Like,
I will recommend the newest Spider-Man though. Far From Home. I really enjoyed that one.
I'm cheating a little bit because I don't consider that an MCU. I consider that a Sony movie.
Okay.
That's made about 75% with Sony. It's only about 25% Feige input.
I get that. All right.
I'm hearing very mixed reviews on Doctor Strange. And I have absolutely zero interest in seeing Thor. So yeah, I just, you know, that's fine. Yeah, but you know something, I was thinking about this the other day, and I've said this before, you know, maybe it's like Alan Moore said, maybe these are for kids. These are kids' movies. You know, he said the comic books that I made, you know, comic books themselves, they're for kids. It's not for middle-aged hobbyists. So maybe I'm supposed to be watching more dramas and, you know, shit like that. So I won't hesitate to say that this movie sucks, you know, if I think it sucks, but, you know.
Right.
Well, there you go. So, I guess that's as good a place as any to bring it to a close for this evening. Was there anything, did we miss anything? Anything anybody wanted to add?
I don't think so. I think I hit all my points I want to talk about.
Okay. Same here. Same here. Gore, you good?
Oh yeah, I'm great.
All right, man. All right. So,
Thank you.
my thanks once again to Eric from Hey Internet. Eric here and the
Sure.
Agoraphobe fellas. Tell people where they can find your content and what you have coming up next.
Well, you can find my content. Hey Internet, Eric here. I'm YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Content wise, I'm still doing my little vampire kicks. I will be eventually talking the From Dusk Till Dawn trilogy.
Okay.
Per request of Goraphobe, I am doing the Phantasm franchise. I'm going to start that. Yep.
Okay.
Never seen them. I started the first movie last night, but I got a little bit too tired, so I stopped it because I want to watch that movie the whole way through. And then I'm just going to pick random stuff here and there just to keep content going. And then I'm going to do, per request of a couple people, some collection videos. I have some movie like pint glasses that I'd like to show off. I have some autographs that I thought would be kind of cool to show off, just to keep the content going. Yes.
Collectibles. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Fair enough. Gore, where can they find you and what you got coming up?
It's Goraphobe on YouTube and also Goraphobe on Instagram and a Phobe Gore on Twitter. I started a little bit on Facebook. I got a lot of stuff going on. I've got for a while now, I've had like 9 different projects going on.
Okay.
I live stream the horror countdowns. I do wrestling countdowns. I do a wrestling show. I'm back to actually doing content. I just showed off a killer boutique copy of Clockwork Orange yesterday.
Okay.
And I've got more to show. I'm also now starting to show off NECA figures. I showed off the NECA Frankenstein. I'm getting ready to show off the NECA Black and White Wolfman. I'm still doing my the Final Girl Spotlight. I'm still doing the Compulsive Collector. I just finished off my 5-part.
Dude, save some internet for the rest of us. Come on, man. Come on, man. But there's only so much bandwidth. You're sucking all the fucking bandwidth out of the room. Jesus, brother.
But my Collector's Grail series over. I'm starting a new series. You're both going to be on. It's Topic X.
Yes.
Coming up.
It's basically extreme topics. We'll come up with a topic like last week. Me and Knight from Night Watch. We discussed Tarantino and his films in depth. So, other than that, I'm sure I'll find some other shit. Hell yeah.
Okay.
Man keeps busy.
Yeah, right. Damn. Okay, so that's where you can find these fellas. That finishes this channel here for the week. I'll be back I've got a couple extra weekend appearances. I'll be on the Baron's Hideout podcast this Saturday at 7 p.m. Where I discuss James Wan's The Conjuring. Which is I enjoy The Conjuring. I love those movies. I like The Conjuring universe by and large. I haven't gotten into the Annabelles. I watched the first one about halfway, and it was I was like, it had a couple of moments, but I didn't follow through. But I like the Conjuring movies. I like The Nun. I don't know if there's a second movie, and I liked The Curse of La Llorona.
Yep.
Now La Llorona it's more than one movie. I mean, there's a La Llorona on Shudder that has absolutely nothing to do with the Conjuring universe, and it's a really good fucking movie.
It's an actual urban legend or tale from Mexico. I have a friend who is Mexican, and I asked him, is this a bullshit story or whatever? He's like, no, this is stuff my mom used to tell me when I was a kid too, so it's legit. Culture.
This takes place in a Latin American country. The one on Shudder, and it's fucking worth. If you have it, La Llorona on there, that's a good fucking movie. I'll be there on Saturday. Baron's Hideout podcast. I'll be there on Sunday with Have Cheetah. Have Cheetah with Patrick. And I'll be covering A24's Saint Maud.
I love Saint Maud.
That's a rough movie, man. That's a rough fucking movie. Yeah, it is. And then I'll be back. This show will be back next week as we do the Evil Dead double feature.
Sweet.
On Wednesday, and if either, obviously you guys are always invited. Wednesday, we're going to be covering the original Evil Dead, Raimi's version, with Walk to Cinema. So they'll be back from Gerald's game. And I'll have Baron's Hideout. They're going to be here joining us for that. And if you guys, whoever else is in the panel that wants to join, can join. And then on Thursday, I'm doing The Evil Dead, the Fede Alvarez remake, which to me is probably one of the greatest remakes of all time. That movie kicked a lot of ass. And it's currently playing on Tubi. So if either of you guys want to get on that and come in and talk some fucking Evil Dead.
Watched it 2 days ago. I just seen it 2 days ago on Tubi.
The Fede Alvarez?
Yep, I just watched it with my fiance a couple days ago.
Come on Thursday. Come on and hang out a little bit if you want. If you got nothing else programmed and you feel like hanging out, come in and shoot the shit, because that's a rough movie.
It is.
I'll never forget. I was in Indonesia. I was in like Jakarta or something like that. And for some reason, I was in Indonesia watching The Evil Dead in the theater. And I remember I was sitting in the aisle, and I turn around after the lights go on, and there's this fucking guy hiding behind his girlfriend as the lights were fucking. Because, I mean, that movie really fucking goes for it, man.
Mm-hmm.
That guy, Fede Alvarez, wasn't fucking around with that
Not
story.
at all.
So, it's a full roster for me coming up this week. But my thanks to both of you.
Of course.
And I know that I'll be seeing you guys again sooner rather than later. And my thanks to everybody who stopped into the stream tonight. Have a great night, everybody. Stick around for a second, fellas.
Got
Peace.
it.